I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all my fault. If only I had spoken up, things might have turned out differently. I could have stopped them from going to that floor, warned them about the suspicious chest, or even gotten everyone out of there after the trap sprang into action. But I didn't. And now I'm left wondering what could have been. The hardest part to swallow is that I kept my true abilities a secret pass, even from Klein. If only I had been honest with him, maybe things wouldn't have gone so wrong. I just kept going before he could try to make me feel better, I said. The truth is, the chances of this working are super slim. I mean, think about it, I have to find this crazy hard Christmas boss, beat it on my own, and hope that this special item actually exists. And on top of all that, I have to believe that the game really does trap its players. When you add up all those tiny chances, it's like searching for one tiny grain of sand in a huge desert. It's basically impossible. It's still not zero, which means there's a chance, no matter how small. As long as that number is greater than zero, I've got to go for it and give it my all. And let's be real, Klein, you're not exactly struggling financially either, so aren't we basically after the same thing when it comes to taking down the boss? Klein just snorted in response, and bent down to grab the katana's scabbard from the ground. Come on, Kirito, I'm not some dreamer who thinks everything will magically work out, I said with a shrug. But I have lost someone I care about in this game too. If I don't try to help, it'll bother me big time. I stood up, and Kirito gave me a crooked smile. It's the same for you, right? He asked. I chuckled. Not exactly. Let's be real, we're also in this for the awesome loot we can get. But seriously, I'm getting worried about the others. What if one of those huge ants shows up? How will they handle it? I think I'll head back now, I said. Yeah, sure thing, he replied. I let my body dangle from the tree branch, eyes shut tight. His voice faded into the distance as he walked away. But then I heard him call out. Hey, just so you know, I wasn't just pretending to care about you to get information. If you keep pushing yourself too hard and something bad happens, don't expect me to use that special item to bring you back. I opened my eyes and looked in his direction. Thanks for looking out for me, I said, genuinely appreciating his concern. I still remember the first words I heard from Kita, the leader of the cool group called the Moonlit Black Cats. If you don't mind, can you show us the way out? He asked. It was a spring evening, about 5 months into the crazy game of Sword Art Online. I was exploring a huge maze on one of the lower floors, searching for stuff to make a new weapon. To be honest, it was pretty boring. As a beater, someone who had tested the game before it came out, and knew all its secrets, I could handle the toughest monsters and level up quickly, but that also meant I didn't have much of a challenge, and it felt like I was just going through the motions. I had been on a roll. In just 2 hours I had found all the items I needed without running into any other adventurers. I was about to call it a day when I saw a group of players running towards me, fast. They were being chased by a huge swarm of big scary monsters. Even I could tell that this group wasn't working well together. They seemed like a recipe for disaster. Let's take a closer look at our team. Out of the 5, only one guy is ready for battle. He's got a shield and a mace. The others aren't as prepared. We've got a sneaky thief with daggers, someone with a quarterstaff, and 2 guys with spears. But here's the problem, our mace-wielding warrior is getting hurt. He's trying to back away from the enemy, but he can't catch a break because he doesn't have anyone to help him block the attacks. I quickly checked how much health each of them had left. We were almost safe, but one wrong move could bring even more monsters our way. That's when I decided to take a chance. I jumped out of our hiding spot and shouted up to the guy with the staff. He seemed like the leader of the group. Hey, need a hand? I asked. His eyes went super wide in surprise. But then he nodded quickly. Yeah, that would be awesome, he said. If you're ever in trouble, don't hesitate, make a run for it. I quickly grabbed my sword from its spot on my back, and yelled to my friend with the mace, let's switch. Then, I pushed my way through the crowd of nasty creatures. To my surprise, it was just a bunch of goblins armed to the teeth. These were the same little monsters I'd been battling non-stop for hours. Here's the deal. If I pulled out my sword and showed off my skills, those goblins wouldn't stand a chance. I could take them down in no time. And even if I just stood there doing nothing, my special battle healing power would kick in and protect me from getting hurt for a pretty long time. But for a split second, I felt a surge of fear. It wasn't the goblins that scared me, though. It was the people watching me from behind. I knew they were thinking, who does this guy think he is? Normally it's not cool for a super experienced player like me to come into a beginner area and act like I own the place. Imagine doing something naughty in a game for too long. Eventually the big players would get tired of you and call in the heavy hitters to take you down. If that happened, you'd be in big trouble. The game's newspapers would even label you as a bad player. I was really worried about this happening to me, especially since I'm considered a beater, someone who doesn't play by the rules. But luckily it seemed like my friends might let it slide this one time, because we were in an emergency. So when we fought those goblins, I played it safe and only used my most basic sword moves. I didn't want to mess up and make everyone angry with me. I had no clue what trouble I was getting myself into. But for now everything seemed okay. We had just beaten a group of nasty goblins after using some special potions to help our warrior with the big mace. The 5 people I was playing with were super excited. They cheered loudly and high-fived each other, celebrating our win. I was surprised by how happy they were. Inside I felt a little weird, but I tried to fit in. I put on a smile and shook hands with them, even though it felt a bit awkward. Then, a woman from the group came up to me. She was the only girl among them and she carried a spear. Her eyes were brimming with tears as she grabbed my hand with both of hers. She shook it really hard, making her dark hair bounce back and forth. "Thank you," she exclaimed, her voice filled with emotion. "I was so scared, but you saved us in an amazing way." I'll never forget the moment I heard those 2 simple words, "thank you." The person saying them was on the verge of tears, and it hit me right in the feels. To this day, I'm not sure what emotion I felt, but I know it was powerful. All I knew was that I was happy, I'd been able to save the day and proud of myself for being brave enough to do it. As a solo player, I was used to going it alone in the game, but this wasn't my first time lending a hand to a group in need. I'd helped out other players before, and it always felt amazing. Imagine you're part of a secret group of skilled gamers. You all know that things can get tough, and sometimes you might need a hand. So there's an unwritten rule: help each other out when you're in trouble. It's not about seeking praise or thanks. It's just what you do when someone does help you. A simple nod of the head is all the thanks they need. No big deal, no fuss. That's just how it works among these experienced players. You took a deep breath after the fight and got ready for the next battle. In this world it was all about getting stronger and stronger. But then you met the moonlit black cats. They did things differently. Instead of just moving on to the next fight, they stopped to celebrate their win. They cheered and high-fived each other, praising each other for being so brave. It was a cool way to do things, and it made you wonder if there was more to fighting than just winning. It was like the ultimate victory music started playing. I couldn't help but notice how well these players worked together. That's when I decided to offer them a helping hand and show them the way out of the crazy hard labyrinth. Maybe it was because they seemed to really get what it takes to beat this game, even more than some of the other players. Plus, I had another reason to team up with them. I was almost out of potions. "Want me to walk you out?" I asked with a straight face. But Kita wasn't buying it. He burst out laughing. "Thanks for caring," he said with a chuckle. Honestly though, I was feeling amazing. It had been 6 months since the moonlit black cats disappeared. And now I could be real about how I felt. Playing solo had made me strong, but not just for myself. I'd finally used my power to help people who needed it. And that felt incredible. After we escaped the crazy labyrinth, Kita invited me to grab a drink with him at a pub. I jumped at the chance. We sat down, had a toast with some fancy wine, and introduced ourselves. Then Kita leaned in close and asked me a question in a super quiet voice. "What's my level?" Honestly, I was expecting him to ask me that all along. I had a plan before talking to him. I chose a number that sounded good but not too good. This way, I wouldn't give away how strong I really was. The number I picked was a bit higher than what the average person in our guild could do, but still much lower than my real abilities. When I told him, he was super impressed. "Whoa, you can beat that tough dungeon all by yourself at your level?" he asked, amazed. I looked down, feeling a bit embarrassed. "Honestly, I'm just sneaking around and searching for monsters that I can beat by myself," I admitted. "It's not the best way to do things." My friend raised an eyebrow. "I see," they said. "Kirito, this is kinda weird to ask, but I have a feeling that another guild is going to come looking for you soon. Want to join our crew? Kita asked, a big smile spreading across his face. I played dumb, pretending I hadn't heard him right. What are you talking about? Kita's face turned bright red as he got excited. Hear me out. We're strong enough to take on that tough dungeon. The problem is, we don't have all the skills we need. Like you saw earlier, Tetsuo is our only warrior who can handle being up front and taking the heat. We're in a bit of trouble. Kita can't catch his breath on his own, and we often find ourselves backpedaling. That's where you come in. You'd be a huge help. Just then Kita called out to someone. Hey Sachi! Come here. A woman with short black hair and a spear walked over. She was sipping from a wine glass and gave me a shy nod when she arrived. Kita put his hand on top of her head as he said, you can see she uses a really long spear that needs both hands. But here's the thing, she's not as good with it as our other spear fighter. I think it would be awesome if she switched to a sword and shield instead. The problem is, we're super busy, and it's hard to find time for her to practice. Plus, she's having a tough time getting used to swinging a sword. It's just not clicking yet. Can you help her out a bit? Someone asked. Sachi rolled her eyes and said, don't talk to me like I'm a kid. She stuck out her tongue and laughed. I'm used to hiding in the back and attacking from a distance with a long spear. It's freaky being up front and face to face with the bad guys. Her friend teased, that's what the shield is for. You can hide behind it. Sachi had always been a bit of a warrior, but she was trying to be brave. Up until now, I'd been playing games like CS:GO, in a really competitive way, always fighting for resources, and trying to come out on top. It was a tough way to play, but it was all I knew. The joking around between them was super entertaining to watch. When Kita caught me staring, he burst out laughing and started explaining with a hint of embarrassment. You know, we all used to be part of the same computer club back in high school. He said, and get this, and she and I even lived pretty close to each other. He quickly added, but don't worry. Trust me, Kirito, they're all super cool, and you'll make friends in no time. I had already seen how nice they were on our way out of the maze. It made me feel a little bad that I was hiding something from them, but I put on a smile and nodded. Okay, count me in. I'm glad to be here, I said with a smile. But what really made a difference was when the moonlit black cats added another fighter to the front line. It totally evened things out. If anyone had taken a closer look at my health meter, they would have noticed something weird. It never seemed to go down, no matter what happened. When I told my friends in our guild that my coat was super special, they totally believed me. And the best part is, it wasn't even a lie. My coat really is made of something unique. When we worked together as a team to battle monsters, I played it safe and focused on protecting everyone. I let the other players get the final hits, which gave them extra experience points. It was all about teamwork. Things were moving fast with Kita's group. Just 1 week after I joined, we were already exploring a new level of the dungeon. We took a break in the safe zone, munching on delicious sandwiches that Sachi had made for us. As we sat in a circle, Kita started talking about his big plans. We have to stay safe, that's our top priority, he said. But if all we wanted was to be safe, we could just hang out back in the town of beginnings, right? That wouldn't be much fun. I'm super excited about how fast we're improving. If we keep getting stronger like this, I think we might finally be good enough to join the top players, the clearers. They're the ones who get to move the game forward and make it more exciting for everyone else. Right now, guilds like the Knights of the Blood and the Divine Dragon Alliance are the ones doing all the cool stuff at the higher levels. I wonder what makes them so much better than us, Kirito. Is it because they know something we don't? This version is written in a fun and engaging way, with simpler sentences and vocabulary that's easy to understand. For 12 to 13-year-olds, it preserves the key details of the original text while making it more accessible and interesting for a younger audience. It's like they have a secret map to the best hunting spots and know exactly how to get their hands on the coolest gear. I knew this from personal experience. I used to be one of them, but Kita wasn't buying it. That's probably part of it, she said, but I think there's more to it than that. I think it's all about being super determined and strong-willed. Imagine having the courage to stand up for not just your friends, but everyone around you. That's what these players have, super strong sense of teamwork and protection. It's like they have an unstoppable energy that helps them conquer challenge after challenge. And even though we're the ones being helped right now, I think we've got just as much heart and determination to lend a hand when it counts. I know we can do it, if we keep trying our best, I said with a grin. We'll catch up to them someday. My friend nodded, but I could tell he wasn't totally convinced. Yeah, let's hope so, he replied. But honestly, I knew the real reason why some players were so determined. It wasn't about being heroes or doing what's right. For the top players, it was all about one thing: being the best swordsman in the game. They wanted to be the strongest of all, and they would do whatever it took to get there. Imagine this: if the best players in SAO really cared about keeping everyone safe, they would share their secrets and cool items with the average players. This would help make all players stronger and give them a better chance at beating the toughest bosses. But that's not what happened. The top players kept everything to themselves because they wanted to stay the strongest and be in charge. I have to admit, I was just as guilty as anyone else. Every night I would sneak out of the inn and use my teleportation power to jump to the latest floor. My goal was to level up as fast as I could. But the more I did this, the farther ahead I got from my friends in the Moonlit Black Cats group. I knew I was letting them down, but I just couldn't stop. And the weird thing is, at the time I kinda believed what he was saying, even though it was getting me into trouble. I had a crazy idea. If I helped the Moonlit Black Cats get super strong, maybe Kita's big dreams could finally make a difference with the top players, known as the Clears. These Clears were like a secret club that nobody could join, but I thought Kita might be the one to change that. As we started playing together, it was amazing how fast the Moonlit Black Cats improved. They were exploring places I had already beaten, so I knew all the tricks and tips to share with them. I showed them where to avoid danger and where to find the best treasures. With my help, the whole guild started to level up really quickly. We were way ahead of everyone else. I first met them 10 floors down from where the action was happening, but they quickly made their way up to just 5 floors away. Our guild was raking it in. We had so much gold that buying our own headquarters was actually starting to seem possible. But there was one thing that wasn't going exactly as planned: turning Sachi into a super cool swordswoman who could also wield a shield. To be honest, I didn't expect her to pick it up right away. It's tough to master. Imagine being trapped in a virtual world where terrifying creatures are lurking around every corner. To survive in close combat, you need more than just good gaming skills. You need to be super brave and face your fears head on. Many players didn't make it past the beginning of the game because they freaked out when things got up close and personal. My friend Sachi was really sweet, but she was also super shy and timid. This made it tough for her to handle intense battles where monsters were right in her face. I wasn't in a hurry to train her as a shield user, because honestly, I was strong enough to protect our whole group on my own. But here's the thing, our guildmates didn't see it that way. They thought it wasn't fair that I, the new kid, was doing all the tough work on the front lines. They seemed pretty upset about it, and I couldn't blame them. It was a lot of pressure. Things were getting weird with our group. We're usually super tight, but nobody wanted to speak up and say what was really on their mind. And Sachi was feeling the heat. Then, out of nowhere, she vanished from the inn one night. We couldn't even track her down using the guild registry, which made us think she might have gone into a labyrinth alone. Kita and the others freaked out, and decided to search for her inside the labyrinth. But I had a different idea. I thought we should look for her outside of it. I tried to sound cool when I told my friends about other secret spots in the wilderness that could hide someone. But honestly, I was just making it up. The truth is, I had a special skill called track that helps me find people. It's like a superpower that only works because I'm really good at searching. I didn't want my friends to know, so I kept it a secret. While they were busy running off to explore the labyrinth on the floor, I snuck over to Sachi's room. That's when I turned on my track skill. Suddenly little light green footprints appeared, showing me where she had gone. I followed them, and they led me on a wild adventure. But then, something weird happened. The footprints vanished into a waterway on the edge of town. I wasn't expecting that. I peeked inside the dark room, and the sound of dripping water echoed off the walls. That's when I spotted Sachi curled up in a corner and hidden under a new cloak she had gotten. "Sachi," I said softly. She looked up, surprised, and her shoulder-length hair fell away from her face. "Kirito, how did you find me?" she asked. I thought for a moment before answering. "I just had a feeling," I said, with a shrug. Sachi gave me a weak smile, then rested her head on her knees again. I thought fast, trying to come up with something that wouldn't raise any red flags. Hey, people are getting really worried about you, I said. They're searching for you in the labyrinth. Let's head back. But she just stayed silent, her face still buried. I waited for what felt like forever whole minute, maybe even two. Just when I was about to try again, I heard her whisper, her voice barely audible. Kirito, will you run away with me? I was taken aback. Run away, I repeated, unsure of what she meant. Where's this coming from? I asked without thinking. Sachi's answer was surprising. From everything that's happened here, she said, in this town with the black cats, and all the craziness in Sword Art Online. To be honest, I didn't know much about how girls think we're people in general for that matter, so I didn't have a quick answer. After thinking about it for a bit, I asked another question. Do you mean like, a promise to quit the game together, or something? I said, trying to understand what she meant. Sachi laughed, but it wasn't funny. Yeah, maybe, she said. Sorry, no, that's not it. I wish I was brave enough to face whatever is out there, but instead I'm stuck hiding in this town. Hey, sit down already. I hesitated for a moment, then sat down on the cobblestone street, leaving a little space between me and Sachi. The lights of the town twinkled like stars through the curved opening of the waterway. It was kind of pretty, but it didn't calm my nerves. To be honest, I'm really scared of dying, I admitted. I'm totally freaked out, she whispered. I haven't been able to sleep lately. Why is this happening to us? Can't we just quit the game and go home? It's supposed to be just a game, but why do we have to die if we lose? What's the point of all this? And what's in it for that guy, Kaiba? There were so many questions swirling around in her head, and each one had its own answer. But I knew Sachi wasn't looking for those kinds of answers, so I thought about what she really wanted to know and found my voice. Honestly, I don't think there's a special meaning to life, I said, and nobody's really getting anywhere. It's like everything that truly mattered was already decided when this world was created. I felt bad saying this, especially since Sachi was sitting next to me, crying her heart out. She had cried so much that she had finally run out of tears. I have to admit, it was kind of fun, sneaking around with the black cats without them knowing my true abilities. It made me feel like I was one step ahead, like I had a secret power that no one else knew about. But deep down I knew I should have been honest with her. If I was being totally truthful, I would have confessed everything right then and there, even if it meant revealing some not so great things about myself. Let's try to make things a bit better for Sachi. If I had been honest with her, she might have felt a little less stressed out. But instead I told her something that wasn't true. Don't worry, you're not gonna die, I said. Sachi looked worried and asked, how can you be so sure? I tried to sound calm and confident. The black cats are really strong right now, I explained. We're safe, there's no need to worry. You're totally safe as long as you're part of our guild, I said. And don't worry, you don't have to become a sword fighter if you don't want to. Sachi looked up at me with big pleading eyes. I had to turn away, her stare was too much for me to handle. Really, I won't die? She asked, her voice shaking. I'll get to go back to my normal life. I nodded. Yeah, you'll be okay. You won't die. Let's just beat this game already and get out of here, I said, trying to sound tough, but honestly, I didn't mean it. My words sounded super lame even to me. Still, Sachi snuggled up close to me and rested her head on my shoulder. She was really upset, and soon she started crying. After a bit I texted Kita's group to check in, and then I walked Sachi back to the inn.